Yes, that's right. The know-it-alls are back. It's something to talk about. What the flickin' hell?
Wow. Rob, this is crazy. We haven't had anything happen in an episode of Australian Survivor for weeks. And now we've got the episode of the season. And it's like I predicted. Really, this is a testament to me. Final 7, classic time to make a big move. And a big move happens. And it's a huge move. It's the move of the game.
Yes, I don't know what you're talking about, but sure, we'll go with it. As Stephen called it, Final 7.
That's why I said you were complaining, as always, you were complaining about how nothing was happening. And I said, it's too soon to make a move. You make a move at the Final 7.
Okay, sure. And we'll go with it. And so let's get into talking about Jenna Louise got voted out, yada, yada, yada. And now here we are, Stephen, in episode 21, finally.
You can't yada, yada Jenna Louise.
We can't?
No, you can't. It's fine. Yeah, no, you can't. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. This is I'm prepared to do that. There's nothing of note that I need to talk about from episode 20.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just we need to get into this. And the hashtag RHAP, we're going to take your questions along the way. Also, you can subscribe to our Australian Survivor podcast. Go to robinswebsite.com/survivorau. And you can subscribe to that. 10 more weeks to go, and then we will have the winner of Australian Survivor. But Stephen, at the Final 7, the biggest move of the game takes place when Flick defects from her alliance of 6 to make this bold move and switch things up. Stephen, it was a bold move. Was it a good move?
That's the question. Was it a good move? That's the question we're here to answer. It's hard though. I've seen a lot of online chatter about this, obviously, right? And there's a lot of really compelling arguments for both sides. And this is going to be a tough one. I'm really excited to talk through this. I've been looking forward to talking about this with you, Rob, because I really see I see both sides. Now, on the one hand, my number one concern with anyone who makes a move like this is what happens next week? What happens the next episode? It's such a common thing where the person who flips away from their alliance, they really piss off their old alliance, and they're pretty dispensable to their new alliance, and they're very frequently the next person to go home. And that's my fear for, it's funny that this is happening right now, just like in American Survivor. Jessica made this, very similar flip, this past episode. This very similar flick this past episode. My whole blog was saying, like, this is a dangerous move for Jessica because she's pissed off her old alliance, and to what? She's just broken faith. So it's very different, of course. Jessica on day 6 or whatever, and Flick here on day 600. Very different situations. So the danger, I think, for Flick is that now you've really pissed off Sam for sure. How loyal is Matt going to feel? And you've basically why to save how, and the question is like Lee and Elle, what are they going to think? So on the other hand, I'm going to stop monologuing here. I'm going to give you a chance to have an opinion.
Okay,
before I say what's on
I appreciate that, because this is such a complicated move, and it's not just simple as sort of like a go left or go right, sort of like the position that I was in at the Final 7 in Survivor the Amazon, where I had 2 options in front of me to go with the Alex and Heidi and Jen, to go with Butch and Christy and Matt. It was basically a pretty binary decision for me. This was especially complicated, I think, for Flick, because that there was also there was basically the sort of surface move where everyone was going to vote out Christy,
right?
And I'm talking about
nobody
Christy,
was actually doing
Australian Survivor Christy.
Yeah.
But also that Brooke was also planning a big move in the game that was going to be different, in which that she was going to vote against somebody from the Aganoa line. And so that was sort of a big play. Actually, it started with Lee, and then Lee won immunity, and then ultimately it was going to be Elle. So there was also this other big move in play from Brooke. And so that's what really makes this complicated and interesting.
Well, and this is like when Survivor is so fun to watch, when everyone is pretending there's a default plan and both sides know the decoy plan is not the right plan, but like they're both playing along even though they have like totally other plans. I love that when there's like everyone says they're voting Christie,
the
but
Matt
no one is
plan.
actually voting Christie.
Mhm.
The thing is, here at the final 7, this is when you're thinking, who do I need to be sitting next to win, and how do I get there? And you can't think just like, how do I get to the end safely? And I think that really is where Flick's, dilemma has to be, where very clearly she's got a very solid shot if she just sticks with Brooke. Brooke's been her number 1 since the very beginning. Stick with Brooke and Sam and Matt, and just go down to 4, and then you're probably going to end up in the final, at least the final 3. But can you win there? So
okay,
I think
no more tap dancing around this. I hate this move. I thought it was a terrible move for Flick. She blew it.
But what if Flick can't beat Brooke? What is her win condition? And my mind is like, Flick is best up against Matt and Christie, right? Like that's what, or I guess it's one of those two, Matt or Christie. Would you agree with that?
I think that would be better. Yeah. So, Stephen, I defer to you in this spot, because I mean, is this not a similar parallel to you and JT, where you feel like that you have an ally who's been with you the whole time? You're a person that you don't want to turn your back on, but you feel like you cannot beat them in the end. And also similar, I guess, to JT, that Brooke is an immunity threat. So there's somebody it's going to be hard to get rid of her if you don't take this opportunity. But this is final 7, and it's potentially, I believe this is going to be a final 2. You're going to have 4 more shots at this down the road. I feel like that you're burning too many people. You're not just burning Brooke, you're also burning Sam in this situation, and Matt, which are going to be 2 or 3 jury votes at this point. So I think that there's not a lot of upside here, and I think that you certainly were in a safe spot if you're Brooke to be able to get the numbers further down.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I agree this is too soon. I think, why not take out Elle and Lee while you have the shot, and then make your pivot. Then take out Christie, or so then work with Christie or Matt and take out Brooke. That's what I think. I think it's like Flick has got to turn on Brooke at some point, right? The reason being, 1, Brooke is probably going to beat her in the end. She's got more tight loyalties among the jurors, and she's had like more challenge wins, and I think that's going to really play a major role in this jury. Brooke or Sam are always going to beat her at the end. Flick's other challenge is that Brooke and Sam are clearly more loyal to each other, and I think that's where it differs from me and JT. Where like with JT, I knew that I was his number 1, and I was basically everybody else's number 1 too. So if I could get myself close to the end, all I had to do was knock him off. It's very different for Flick, where Brooke is really that person who's everybody's number 1. Sam might take Brooke. Flick might, be forced to take Brooke. Matt might take Brooke. So, Flick is in this position where at some point she has to now knock off Brooke in order to really have a shot, both to get to the end and to win at the end. The question is when, and is there any argument to be made? Because I agree, like, superficially, don't love the move, but I want to take a step back and say, is there any argument to be made? Like, if you get closer, you're going to get lost in the momentum. You've got a shot to shake things up. Do you take it? People criticize me nonstop for not taking an earlier shot at JT when I had it, and I think I made the right decision at the time. Obviously, I lost. I still think it was the right decision. I know you don't believe that you can make the right decision and have bad results, but is there any?
I never said that. Stop.
You're all about the results. Whatever happened is entirely justified or unjustified by the results.
Fact checkers, go to robhasawebsite.com. I know there's not a lot of fact checking going on. Steven is just going to keep saying these things. I know the fact checkers are out there.
You're wrong, Rob, and you should be in prison.
How dare you? All right. Can I talk about Brooke? Because I don't think that Brooke did a good job in this episode. I think that Brooke clearly also made a bad move. And I think that she helped make Flick's case, where here's Flick being over aggressive, but perhaps Brooke was over aggressive too. because without Brooke's over assertiveness in this episode, where she's going to try to make the move to try to take Lee out here at Final 7, then she is able to give Brooke the ammo to be able to go to Lee and to Elle. And to me, it reminded me of back in Survivor Kakiyan, back when Tony was trying to say to LJ, like, hey, LJ, woo, I think he's coming to get you. And it was like he wanted LJ to say the words, hey, maybe we should get Woo out, so that he could go back to Trish and to Woo and to say, LJ, look, he's coming to get you guys. I don't know what I can do. But in this case, Brooke actually did supply the ammo, where she says to Sam, hey, we should get out Lee, and Sam agreed, even though they had the bromance. And then it made it too easy for Flick to be able to go back to Lee and to Elle and to say, hey, that they're coming, that Sam has turned against you and Brooke has turned against you. And she was able to reunite the three original Aganoans.
Well, but from Brooke's perspective, like, you have to on Survivor assume people are going to act according to their best interest, right? That's all you can think. And from Brooke's perspective, this is not in Flick's best interest, right? Because again, like, it's putting, Flick is going from this very safe spot at the center of this solid 4 to this very marginal spot, like right in between these two alliances. So, you're saying you hate this move from Flick. Brooke was probably thinking the same thing. I mean, I don't think this is too soon for Brooke to turn on Elle and Lee. I actually think that it could be very dangerous to let those guys get within, sniffing distance of the final tribal.
Well, here's the question though: is that what were the alliances? Was there? Because I think in our mind it was like, okay, there was the 3, and this is what Nick has been saying, Jenna Louise. There's the 3 of Brooke and Flick and Elle, and then there's the 2 of Sam and Lee. But was it actually, were Lee and Elle the tightest bond? Because if that was the case, then I guess this was the right move. But if, as we've been told, there's the 3 women, doesn't it make more sense to grab Christy and then to make it be the 4 women and then take out Sam and Lee and Matt?
Well, and maybe that's what Brooke was going against, right? Is that, suddenly Brooke is saying, let's vote out one of the 3 women. If you're in Flick's position, wouldn't you think, well, wait a second, this is the game plan. Like, why are we suddenly shifting things? Like Matt used to be on the bottom, suddenly now he's in. I don't know. I mean, like, look, again, like, lines are much more fluid than that, obviously. That's, you see, we're watching it be like the 3 women, then suddenly it's like, oh, it's actually the 4 Vavau or Sanapu, whatever they were, against the 3 Aganoans.
I think Vavau is over, Stephen.
I know. Isn't that unbelievable? Vavau, one of like the most dominant.
They're extinct.
Yeah. Sanapu just took him out. And Aganoa, the little Aganoa that could.
Yeah, the Matt Singh. They're right there.
Can we take a moment, though, to appreciate, or just a Sam hypocrisy moment for
he is
Sam,
the worst.
The freaking guy who was accusing Nick of being an evil, duplicitous snake for literally nothing is now the guy who's like, well, I'm going to vote against my best mate, but that's just how it is.
Mateship.
It's okay if I do it because I'm going to look really soulful and it's outrageous.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to pile on Sam that I hate to do this, because I have to talk about somebody else. I hate to do this, Stephen. Yeah. But I have to say how utterly disappointed I am with Magic Matt. Magic Matt, to me, has been the biggest disappointment in this entire series, going back to the pregame
more
stuff.
Than Connor? More than Bianca?
Yeah, I had no expectations from Connor.
What about
Bianca? I was gutted to see her go. But Magic Matt, I had such high hopes for him that he was going to be this player in this game. From going into the preseason of like, he's a mentalist. He's able to read people's body language and know exactly what they're going to do. Right. And here he is. Half this episode, I'm like, is he even still on the show? He's not. He's never even talked about. And now here is this flip that happens, and he's not even part of the flip that's going on. That he's seemingly just. I don't. That Stephen is. Where is Matt in all of this?
Yeah, it looks like he's been. I mean, a couple episodes ago, he had this confessional about how he came out hoping to be the sort of center of action, and he never connected with anyone in that way that you need to. And I think that really is the core of it. It's like if you don't connect with the right people on Survivor, you're never going to have leverage. Like, that's not actually entirely true, but
every statement he's made for the last like 25 days in this game has been wrong. He's wrong about everything. He is completely out of the loop on every vote.
Well, it's funny though, because he is a guy who could win, because he's been sort of right. He's got enough of a strategic persona where he, but he hasn't like necessarily pissed anybody off, because he hasn't been in the power position to piss anyone off.
You have every single person who's going out of the game like, yeah, you're really not in the loop, Matt. I got to be honest. You don't know what's going on. Like, they're crazy. This is crazy talk. And then this one, like, he wasn't really in the mix of any of these sort of like where, Brooke isn't talking to him. Flick's not talking to him. He's getting the fake plans, but he's really been such a disappointment, because I really thought that he was the guy who was going to be able, at some point, was going to take the game by the horns, and maybe he will at the last second. But, I'm finding it very hard to see this outcome.
This is why you can't listen to the pregame stuff. You get attached. You get attached. I came in with no
attached. I was really buying this. Oh, Magic Matt. He's going to pull one over on everybody. He's the mentalist. He's going to do it.
I'm disappointed about Craig. If only Craig were here,
Well, I don't know. He should have listened to me and not voted off Andrew.
Yeah. So let's get back to this Flick thing, because I agree. Like, a terrible, on the surface, a very bad move. You go from the Central Alliance to to being this flipper. You've pissed a lot of people off who they're going to the jury house. Brooke is not going to go to the jury house and say, wow, what a great move that was. She's going to be like, what a snake. She's evil. No mateship. And she's going to, maybe you win Nick's vote, but you're not going to win the jury's vote. Is there anything that we can say, though, that can say, like, this was the right move because Flick was in a bad position and she had to destabilize the game to improve. She
wasn't in that bad of a position, though.
How does she win? How does she win? What's her path to the victory?
Move should have been, they should have voted out Sam. I think that they should have voted out Sam, because what's going to happen? Yeah, vote out Sam. Play this out for Brooke and Flick. That they turned on each other. They both got too greedy and tried to make a move. Less so for Brooke, more so for Flick. Vote out Sam at this vote. Okay, so what's going to happen next week? Aganoa is going to get back together, and they're going to force a 3-3 tie. Well, I guess hold on. I guess let me just talk this through, because now Lee has this advantage that we never talk about anymore on the show.
Voting out. I just want to know who you're saying should vote out Sam.
I feel like that it should have been the women. The women should have gotten together and voted out Sam in this spot. Now the thing that's the spoiler here is, and not a spoiler in the Survivor sense, but in going to the final 6, Lee does have this vote advantage where he can cancel a vote. But would he at that point? And if he did, then would Aganoa get back together and use Lee's vote cancel? And what would they do?
I actually thought Lee should have used the vote cancel. It
didn't even come up.
But this was the perfect time, because the numbers are even. He's got, he doesn't know what Flick is going to do. He's not entirely sure. If he takes away one vote from the other team, maybe if Flick does betray him, then he's pushed a tie at the very least. I mean, granted, like that. I mean, we don't know what the vote cancel does on a revote. Mm-hmm. And that really is what it comes down to. But I thought that this might have been the move for him here, was to use a vote cancel. Yeah.
Stephen, how does this not even get talked about?
I'm sure they're talking, so let me just explain to you the basics. Survivor is constant. It's not like, it's 360 or 24 hours a day. And then it gets edited down significantly into a television show. In America, it's a 44-minute show. Here in Australia, it's a much longer show. So you don't see everything that's talked about.
Thank you for explaining that to me. Yeah. So, Stephen, how do we get an hour of this show, and not with commercials, an hour of footage, and the footage that the editors choose to show us does not include one conversation about the vote cancel? Probably
because it had no significant impact on the story. It wasn't played. Yeah. We talk about a lot of this, I get probably people are talking about idols too. There's no idols out there. Probably people are like, oh, do you think he has an idol?
Okay. So let me put you on an island here. What do you say is the move that should have been made? What should Flick have done?
Well, from Flick's perspective, I think she should have stayed with the 4. I think she gets rid of Lee and Elle, and then she's in a position where she can pull in maybe. The question, the tricky thing is, like, we don't know how tight Matt is with Brooke. Like, where's Matt's ultimate loyalty? Is it to Brooke or is it to Flick?
I don't know. Or is it to Sam and Lee, which isn't even a thing anymore?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it looks like Matt always assumed that Sinapu was going to stay together.
Okay. Let's take some questions as we go along here. Derek writes in and says, Brooke played an almost perfect game, but became the first one to fall down in the alliance. What did she do wrong? What could she have done to save herself other than winning immunity? Did she make the wrong move when she took out Sue instead of Connor? Vote out Nick or Kylie too early? Keep Jenna Louise? In terms of what Brooke was doing, what do you feel like that this was an over-aggressive play on her part?
I think Brooke was too clearly the ringleader, right? Like, everyone knew Brooke was running the show. At some point, that person is going, unless they really shore up their allies, and that's the crazy, like, it looks, I mean, that's the crazy thing about Survivor. Like, if Flick had been feeling differently that day, Brooke wins. If Flick has feeling like more, like slightly less paranoid and slightly more loyal to Brooke, she doesn't flip at a very questionable decision, and maybe Brooke goes all the way, and it's like, or, paranoia sets in, and Brooke, being the obvious ringleader, is the obvious target. I'm not sure if there's anything that Brooke could have done better than, except maybe reassure Flick, somehow show Flick that Flick had a path to victory. It's like it's every front runner, or very often the front runner gets taken out, right? So it's hard. It's the crazy part of Survivor, and especially a game that's, they're on day 45 now, right? Yeah. Like, they're not making rational decisions at this point. No one is making irrational decisions.
I think everybody did a bad job, maybe also not just taking out Christy. It seemed like it was late. I don't know. You have this vote cancel, but to us it's important, but to nobody out there, it doesn't seem like it's a factor in their decision making. So part of me says, just vote out Christy. You have this alliance of 7.
Oh man, I really disagree with you.
Okay. All right. Well, can I finish? No. Can I use my time?
No.
Yeah. But you have Christy there. So if you have this group, this block that's sticking together, then either vote her out, or if that's not the case, then vote out Sam. It just seems like so premature for Brooke to want to vote out Elle in that spot when Elle seemingly is loyal to the women.
But you need to, at the final 7, that's when you start voting out the jury threats. Like, you can't pull someone along because they're loyal to you when they're going to beat you at the end.
Elle is going to beat her?
That's what everyone said. Everyone was like, Elle's going to win, Lee's going to win. If you have 3 or 4 jury threats there, you can't just let those votes go by and be like, well, we like her, she's loyal to us.
But I mean, who didn't think like that, Stephen? Kim Spradlin. Kim Spradlin wasn't like, okay, well, I've got to vote out Chelsea, I've got to vote out Sabrina, they could win. That's
because Kim knew she could beat them. That's the whole point. These people know Elle will beat her.
How? Well, who's Elle? Name 2 facts about Elle.
She has a child, and she's very close with Lee.
That's that's like 50-50 on that last one. Close with Lee.
All we can go by.
Lee drives a green car.
All we can go by is the narrative that we're seeing. So if these Survivor contestants are saying Elle's a huge jury threat, nobody can beat Lee or Elle, if you're saying, well, I think
somebody has to beat somebody.
Right. And yes, that's exactly the point. And if you're in the game, you want to be the person beating those people. So you remove the people who can beat you. I don't think if you're in the game and you're Flick, you say, well, it's okay if Elle beats me because someone has to beat somebody.
I have to get close enough that I can smell the money first and not worry about who's a jury threat at Final 7.
Final 7 is exactly when you have to worry about who's a jury threat. That's when you have the leverage to make a move. When it gets down to 6 and 5, suddenly those things get a lot more locked in. And that's why I think Christy is the perfect person to have around,
especially in a final 2 situation, Stephen. You got 5 more shots at this.
But there's also multiple people. You've got Lee to worry about, you've got Elle to worry about, you got Sam to worry about, you got Brooke to worry about. If you're Flick and there's 4 people who can beat you, and 2 who you can beat, like you got to take your shots when you got them. And like, yes, I think she should have taken her shot at Elle here and saved her alliance with Brooke, because now I think she's going to be a pariah among both groups. But I don't agree with you about the Christie vote. I mean, Christie's one of the few people she can probably beat.
Did Christie do anything to save herself here at Final 7 if she was going to be the presumptive next vote?
No, right? I guess she like wasn't her confessional about Lee like so strange? She's like, if Lee truly is sacrificing himself for my sins, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah. I hard time giving Christie a lot of credit in anything that goes on. Like sometimes like she'll do a confessional that's just sort of like, oh, this is going well. Like, but I don't ever see her doing anything.
It's like both like evil and so awkward and forced at the same time. Yeah. It's not like, yeah.
Like she'll like say to somebody like, oh, everybody will believe I'm getting voted out because I'm so awkward and have no friends. But she's like sort of just there. I mean, I'm sure we'll get some flack for this, but I have a hard time giving Christie a lot of credit.
No, I totally agree with you. I don't think Christie's doing very much. I mean, she obviously played a big role in the Phoebe blindside, and for that she can never be forgiven. But more importantly, she's not doing much. She's I don't think that you can say, oh, but she's still there. People get pulled along in every season for, just because they seem weak or because they seem, like they're not a threat. And if you're not actively making moves and doing things, like I can't respect that.
Okay. All right. Some more questions that are from our listeners. Vanessa writes in to say, is it ever a good strategy to look/be vulnerable when you're on the outside of the group? Do you think it can help with your position in the game? What are your thoughts on Christie's confessional in terms of her? Do you feel like that she is intentionally looking vulnerable?
Yeah, I guess to that degree, you actually do need to give Christie credit for not playing. I mean, if you're in that Christie position, I don't know. Do you give her credit? Like,
no. What has she done to the point where that she's done such a good job of looking like she's not playing, but she actually is not. She's not quitting. Like she hasn't left. She has not gotten up and left the game, and to that she is owed a lot of credit.
There's something to be said though for like avoiding the vote until you have the chance to make your move. You just need one move, right? And that's kind of like the Wentworth game, right? Where it's like, if you can just be unobtrusive until you have the shot. And if you take that shot, that could be enough to win you the game. Is Christie doing that? It doesn't look like it, right? Like in Survivor Australia, it seems like what happens is that everyone kind of ducks and covers. And then when it's their turn to get eliminated, that's when they light up and are like, no, here's what's happening. Now it's time to make a move. And then you're like, yeah, you should have said that 6 episodes ago. Now that it's finally you finally think it's time to make a move. So in that respect, it just seems like Christie is just like the last of those people. But, that said, like, if she takes the shot, it could be enough. Mm-hmm. Whatever that shot is. I don't know. You don't buy it.
I have a hard time imagining it in terms of that, like it could happen. Sure. We've seen it, but it does not inspire the hearts and imagination of the Survivor viewing fans.
Yeah. Who's got a winner's edit? So I actually need to do a mea culpa. I said Brooke had a winner's edit at one of these podcasts. To be honest, it was just because someone was really aggressively tweeting at me about Brooke's winner's edit. And like, I hadn't thought so in the beginning, but then like, I was like, oh yeah, okay, sure. That makes sense. I see it. It makes sense. And I was wrong, obviously. So I apologize. Who now has a winner's edit, Rob?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I think that Sam and Lee have been consistently shown as heroic the whole way through. And I think that Flick, after this episode, you would have to say, is being shown in a very positive light.
Yeah.
I don't see any way that Flick wins after this move, but I think that she was shown to be very positively portrayed.
Yeah, I think so too. I thought it showed that. I mean, it didn't really explain her move. It showed her being the middle of the vote, but I didn't necessarily.
I mean, she was certainly the narrator of this episode.
Yes, yes, and she was she was the decisive force in a huge blindside. Yeah, I thought Lee came off looking great.
You mean like aesthetically?
Yeah, amazing abs.
Yeah, even with the guy eats all that chocolate and he still looks great.
Yeah, yeah.
Stephen, Kelly Priest also has a question for us. So, although the tribal was great and exciting, are we celebrating too soon? With Brooke gone, I think that Flick will be gone soon after, as well as Matt. And then we're left with the nightmare final four of Lee, Elle, Sam, Christy, as all the key strategists will be gone. I know I'm really speculating with this one, but do you think that this is a possible scenario? Well, Stephen, is it possible that now with Flick, this new four ends up using her to vote off the likes of Sam and Matt, and then old Aganoa gets back together and says, all right, Flick, you're out next. And then Lee doesn't, don't forget, still has his vote cancel, and we get to a final three of all Aganoa.
I think Matt is actually the winner of this move by Flick, because suddenly he goes from like the bottom of this pecking order and like one of the next ones to get voted off to this kind of unobtrusive force in this like a battle where you've got Flick and Sam and Lee and Elle facing off against each other. Like, who's gonna vote out Matt? You know, you said Matt wasn't gonna make the final six. He's made the final six.
I guess so. I don't know if you said he was going to make the final six.
No, you said there's no way he's making it. And I was like, I hedged, and I said I agreed with you.
Okay, well, I guess you deserve a trophy for that.
Yeah, but I was again bullied. I was bullied by you, just like I was bullied by those Twitter people. I'm very easily swayed, Rob.
Yeah. So you don't think that this four is going to hold for a couple of votes here?
That's the question. I don't know. I would be suspicious. Like, Flick said, oh, Lee and Elle are so trustworthy.
Why would Flick flip back?
I don't think the thing is going to be Flick flipping back. I think it'll more like the flipper is always the person who gets knocked off. One or two episodes, not always.
So you feel like that Lee is going to get back together with Sam and Matt, and that Elle and Christy will also be in on let's just vote out Flick in this spot?
I don't know.
Doesn't really make a lot of sense.
I just worry. My thought is, as soon as you've destabilized the thing, you're going to be a target. What the shakeout is that causes you to be the target. It's more like no one trusts you after that point. You don't have your old group, and the new group doesn't totally trust you either. I think Flick has played a good game from the very beginning. She's scrambled when she's had to scramble. When people have threatened her, she's gone after those people. So I have hope for her, but I have fear for her as well.
I mean, what you could have is Matt and Sam like make the case of like Flick is a snake and she has no honor and she turned on all of us, and that you have Lee and Elle and Christy say, okay, I guess we don't need her number. And then just to sort of satiate, Sam and Matt, they could vote her out at 6 and then vote out Sam and Matt right after that. Sure. I'm starting to feel pretty convinced that Elle, Lee, and Christy will be a final three.
I believe it. And then I could see that. And then who wins?
I think I would say, well, nobody can beat Elle.
If everyone is on the show is telling me that nobody can beat Elle, who am I to be like, you know what? Those people are wrong. They think that, but they don't know. I've seen 20 minutes of Jonathan
anybody is wrong on Survivor. I would say Lee if I had to make a guess out of that three.
Yeah, Lee would be a good winner.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start to take some questions from the audience. Steve, why don't you get us started here? What about Edmo?
Edmo wants to know, should JL have started the train to flip the vote when they voted out Kylie?
I think she was trying.
I don't remember. I mean, the point is that everyone on the bottom of that hierarchy was really dumb, and it was a real credit to Brooke and to Flick, the way they managed it, the way that they managed to bring people into the group and then dispose of them, to make people really believe that they were part of the group and then kind of like shunt them out afterwards. So yes, every person who was on the jury obviously should have made a move before they were on the jury. But that's both to their loss and to the credit of the people who were running it.
Well, let's touch on some of the infuriating things about the tribal council. Also, first off, super infuriating. Matt talking about, hey, like Jonathan, this is an alliance of 7 at the final 7 tribal council. Like,
you're so down on Magic Matt.
I just like, how could you say that? How could you say that at tribal council, like, Jonathan? This is an alliance of 7. We're all in this together, and
that's why you have to love Flick. She's like, let's be real. That's ridiculous. We're not 7.
Yeah,
that's so silly.
Stop it. That's, I mean, it's insulting to everyone's intelligence to say that there is no alliance here. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, it's day 45 of this game.
Yeah. Can you imagine how I'm exhausted just like watching it, you know, like, can you imagine how brain dead they must be by this point?
Mm-hmm. You would think so. And then we get to the confessional, Stephen, and then Matt in his confessional, he votes for L and says, "Welcome to World War III."
Yeah,
that's the first blow. And then Christy, when she votes for Brooke. She says, "It's time for the Ice Queen to step off her self-propelling throne." What the?
I thought it was self-proclaimed. Wasn't it self-proclaimed throne?
Is that what it is?
Oh, I thought she said self-proclaimed. Did you hear self-propelling?
I don't know what she's talking about.
Yeah, I mean that, and well, Flick's comment too was the same, which was that you know, it was like you were too greedy with power. I think there was like an aggressive side to Brooke that everyone sort of, you know, Brooke, I think maybe was too clearly the person who was in the center of things and was wheeling and dealing. And we've talked about this on this podcast, Rob, where it's just too long a game to maintain that. Mm-hmm. You know, like you can be the mastermind who's wheeling and dealing for 39 days, but like I think 55 is just too long.
Yeah. Steven, what would Jeff Probst do at tribal council where somebody at the final 7 tribal council where somebody called it an alliance of 7?
Are you effing kidding me? That wouldn't necessarily make the show. You cannot give me that BS. Yeah. And then he would go to Spencer and say, "Spencer, tell me who," and then Spencer would be like, "Well, Jeff."
Jeff like would literally like start like knocking people's heads together at the point that gets said at a tribal. So kudos to Jonathan for showing some restraint at the moment that is said. All right. Roy wants to know, who is the best player left? Steven?
I mean, I don't think Flick is going to win, but I would say Flick. What do you think? You think Matt, huh?
No. He was the most hyped player, and he hasn't done anything. I'm just not since Matt's Angels have we seen anything from Matt.
He was so jealous about Lee and Sam. It destroyed his game.
I guess so. Would you say L? I mean, nobody can beat her, Steven.
Who would you say? I've said Flick.
I mean, how can we say it's Flick when we're saying she made a terrible move?
I think she. But who's the best player? They're all terrible.
I think that I'll say it's L, but you know.
How do you think L would have almost got blindsided tonight if not for Flick?
Well, then I don't know. Who do you want to say? They're all flawed. They're all flawed. I would have said Brooke before tonight.
But you can be the best player and still be the one about to go home like Flick. Mm-hmm. Like over time, you know, if we put Flick into a 39-day game of Survivor, I believe she would do better than she's doing it.
I mean, I'll still say that I think that Brooke is the best player in this season because it is
I agree.
Mind-boggling to think that I would go and defect at this point in time. Yes. I mean I guess it's a bad job by her to not check in with her ally and say like, "Hey, you're not going to go and tell everything I'm saying to the people who are trying to blindside," right?
I agree. I think that like from Brooke's set of assumptions, she would have to assume that Flick would be loyal to her right now, especially when they're about to get out this massive jury threat, L, who everybody loves. Yeah. But I totally agree, and they've been that best allies since like the first day. And you know, I as someone who also put his faith in someone who he had every reason to put his faith in, I am Team Brooke.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Let's take this question. This is from Guillaume, who says, "Is Christy playing a good game, or is she just stumbling along?" And John Densford wants to know, does Christy get credit for just existing to final 2 without driving strategy?
Both of those things. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. I guess give her credit. I mean,
You said no credit. You said
give her credit that she has not been aggressively bad enough. That is like she has. Yeah, like I don't know if you want to award credit to somebody who has not done enough to attract any attention to her, and has also not been aggressively bad enough to be voted off. So whatever credit you want to give for that, of just like being a bump on a log that nobody has the energy to vote out, then I guess give her credit.
I think the bump on the log is better than the strategist who can't get it done. You know, if you can get your head down and duck and cover into the end, that's better than like being strategic but not actually accomplishing anything.
I guess so, but I mean,
TV. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I don't think that. I don't know. Maybe I don't think that. I can't tell. I need someone on Twitter to tell me what I think.
Yeah. I mean, just somebody just to be in a coma on Survivor for like, just like that. They're not doing anything that you say that they're a threat. And then also they're not doing anything where, you know, you're worried about them as a threat. I don't know.
So Paul Pavlusia has a good follow-up question here. Will Christie be the greatest underdog victory in the history of Survivor? Would you vote for her if she got to the final two? So I think this is the real question. It's like, if Christie gets there, is she going to have enough votes from this group of underdogs that's lining the jury bench?
She would have to be up against the most hated person that you could find. I mean, that what agency can she say that other than they're like, well, I never got voted out the whole time?
But isn't that what Survivor Australia is all about? Is this like, I never did anything, so I'm the best, you know? Like, isn't that Sam's whole ethos?
I never hurt your feelings.
Yes.
I never made you mad at me. I never said said any locker room talk.
Wouldn't Christie be like a completely emblematic winner for Survivor Australia? The person who most embodies Sam's ethos of don't play the game.
Then if you want to say that she is, then yes, but I don't think that's a good thing.
No, I mean, not for the show, but you don't think it's possible that, let's say she's there against Flick, let's say she's there against Sam, let's say she's there against Lee. Is it possible that someone would say, well, probably not Lee, Lee's too perfect, that someone would say, you guys were scheming and evil, and you backstabbed me, Flick. You said you were my ally, and then you backstabbed me. Christie never did that to me.
Yeah. She'd have to be there against Flick. That I don't think that she could do it against Lee or Elle. I think that Lee and Elle both have the trump card to say that, hey, you guys were coming for us. That Flick came and told us Brooke's plan and how you were turned against us. That's why we voted against you guys.
Right.
So I think that's where if she was up against Flick and then, and Sam, who will be so indignant on the jury, he's going to be the most bitter juror of all. If Flick's in the final two, he'll be insufferable. And then you'll have Matt, who will also be indignant about Flick, and Brooke potentially could be really pissed off. And then, that's three people already on the jury. And then, if there's any other if you have Connor, and don't forget about like the people, are they on the jury? No, they're not on the jury, right? Connor's not on the jury. Jury started with Nick. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank God. I don't know. I guess you could have people that are salty towards, the majority alliance for whatever reason. So it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be a bitter vote.
Yeah, probably. Okay.
All right. Chris Baba Booey wants to know, right move for Sam, Matt, and Brooke would be to try and grab up Christie for a vote.
Yeah. I don't know.
They have numbers with Flick.
Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, I think they thought they had Flick. There wasn't a reason to grab Christie.
Yeah. Okay. What about from Ryan the Slytherin says, Flick was often saying best in Survivor history, biggest move in Survivor history. Has she done anything historic? Oh, what do you think is the historic precedent of this? Has anybody ever made a bigger move at the final seven, Stephen?
I mean, this is a big move. This is a big move at the final seven. I mean,
it's the biggest move in the history of Australian Survivor.
It is definitely that. I mean, but on any season, this would have been a huge move. Any season.
I was going to say that if Flick's Survivor history is Australian Survivor plus whatever she gleaned from Benry, then I guess this is the biggest move in Survivor history.
Are you calling her a dirt squirrel?
No, most certainly not. I'm not.
Yeah.
She is no Alina.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Edmo wants to say, will Lee use his advantage next episode regardless if he is the target?
He should.
I don't think that he'll use it regardless. I mean, I think it's almost like you'd have to put a gun to his head to get him to use it.
Yeah. He should.
He should, but it doesn't come up.
So therefore, they never discuss it or think about it.
I mean,
it's not on my television.
I mean, Stephen, I guess that maybe you could be right where it's being talked about nonstop for whatever reason. Survivor is choosing not to show us, but again, I can only go by what's on my TV, and if it's not coming up in conversation, then I have to imagine that it's not being talked about very much.
You are no. I mean, believe me. Like idols. Sorry, I'm like trumping again. Believe me, Rob. You are wrong.
Believe me, I'm hearing. Yeah. What evidence do I have to go off of?
Idols are constantly talked about. That's all people do, and you only see it on TV when it's relevant to the storyline. And the same thing is true. Like let's say My Advantage in Survivor Cambodia. Everyone was talking about it all the time. It only made the edit when it became relevant for the story. And that's, I'm sure, the same thing with Lee's advantage. I mean, I don't think these people are talking about it maybe with the same urgency and hysteria that people on Survivor US talk about idols and advantages, but I'm sure they're like, hey, Lee, when are you going to play that idol, mate?
What voice is that? Hey, Lee, when are you going to play that idol?
Not my strong suit.
All right. Roy wants to say, when will we get a challenge where they have to dig down under in an immunity award challenge? Okay. I think that's a down under joke and a little bit of a stretch. Christian says, if Lucy was on this season, how many confessionals would she have had by now?
Well, Lucy, I don't know. None. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously she's talking a ton that they're just choosing not to show it.
Yes, she is talking. Do you think because you don't see Lucy talking, she doesn't know how to talk?
She's not saying anything interesting. That's why they're not showing it.
Right, exactly. Nothing relevant to the story that's interesting. Just like there's nothing interesting about Lee's advantage. Oh my God, you're outrageous.
All right, Ed Mo says, should Flick be voted out next? You say yes.
I would be sad for it to happen, but I think there's a strong possibility.
I'd be very surprised if she goes out next. So let's all right. So let's call this. Who's going out next?
Either
say Flick.
Either Flick or L.
Flick or L. Well, how does L get voted out next?
If Flick flips back. Or Sam. Sam's actually a pretty good target next. So maybe Sam.
Yeah. Just to be different, I'll say Matt.
I think there's no way Matt is going out next.
Why?
No one's going to target him. Like, why would you target Matt?
Because he's not in the group of people that voted together this week. Unless you're saying, it's voting blocks. It'll be, new people voting together next week.
Always go, at this point, at Final Six, you've got to go for a target. Nobody's worried about, Matt beating them, right?
If the Aganoans stick together plus Flick, then they only have Sam or Matt. Sam's a better bet to win immunity. And I could see Sam saying to Lee, like, mate shit, buddy. Keep me around.
Yeah, after Sam broke that mateship, Lee's disappointed.
Yeah. So do you think he'll target Sam? I mean, I think it'll be either Sam or Matt gets voted out next.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good stuff, Stephen. Thanks so much to Alex Kidwell behind the scenes filling in for Scott St. Pierre this week. Steve, now, when is the finale of Australian Survivor? I really thought that we were going to be done with this before we got to when we do our show in New York. It's not going to be next week.
I don't know, man.
I think our finale coverage is going to be interrupted by Live Know-It-Alls going to New York.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, wow.
Or do you think they're going to drag it out? Do you think that they will drag it out into 3 weeks? Like, how many more weeks are left of the show?
5, 4, 3. God,
So we're heading into the final 6. Next week, do we get 3 episodes again? I mean, it's been 2 weeks in a row that we've had two episodes.
I bet they drag it out 3 weeks.
Does anybody in the chat room know what the schedule is going to be coming up here in the next couple of weeks? Because, I mean, if there's 2 episodes next week, so what do we get down to the final 4? And then do we have a week where we end up with going from 4 to the final 3 and 2? Could they finish the season in 2 weeks?
They could, who knows with these people? So how does one speculate about the programming strategies of Australian Survivor?
I guess we have to hope that somebody knows the schedule.
Yeah, I guess that's how. I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
But they changed. So they went from 2 to 3 to 2.
According to Shania, she's saying it's going to be 3 weeks down to 2 episodes a week. So that would mean that we will be back for the finale.
Okay.
All right, Stephen Fishbach. Follow Stephen on Twitter. He is at Stephen Fishbach.
Yeah.
And next,
what's the hashtag? What's the hashtag this week?
What do you want it to be?
No, I asked you first.
Okay. Hashtag. Let's see. I'll let the chat room get a shot at this while I try to remember what we're gonna say. All right. So tomorrow night, don't forget, the Know-It-Alls will be back. Episode number 4 of the Millennials versus the Gen Xers coming up. Steven, are you excited? Getting promos for tomorrow night on the Millennials versus the Gen Xers.
I love it. I hope the Millennials lose the challenge. Just I am sort of rooting for Gen X, but more relevantly, the Millennials are just so much more fun to watch.
Okay, so you want to see a tribal council with Millennials? Yeah,
they just bring a lot more to the table.
Okay, a lot of people are rooting for Flick Flip.
Flick Flip. Okay, I like it.
And Alex Kidwell suggests flickers never win.
Oh, I like that.
Okay.
Don't you think that Flick? Oh, you also think that Flick can't win because of this flip?
Yeah, I think she is drawing dead at this point, especially in this is not the season. Australian Survivor is not the season to flip on your mates.
Yeah. But permission.
Maybe
permission,
a final
Rob.
3.
They gave each other permission.
I guess so. So there you go. All right. So we'll be back on Wednesday night. Should be a fun week of Survivor coming up. Recap with Randy Bailey, Steven's friend, Randy Bailey. And then Miles and I will be joining me for the voicemails coming up on Thursday. So it should be a good week of Survivor. Until then, take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.